Okay, so what's going on today as far as this recurrence of PTSD? I'm doing a lot of deep breathing, or what's like the very deep breathing like that. This is a natural occurrence, it seems, within the body. I'm not doing that consciously. It's something that's happening. And I notice that it's happening when the symptoms of anxiety get so strong that it feels like I'm going to go into a full-blown panic attack. So what it feels like is the emotions are so raw, I would say, that thoughts that come into the mind that could easily be let go of under normal circumstances actually create a level of anxiety in the body that I feel like I'm on the verge of crying or tears almost constantly. So these thoughts that I'm not even really aware of, sorry, I have a beep here. These thoughts that I'm not even really aware of under normal circumstances are causing anxiety and tension and stress in the body that it almost feels like it takes my breath away. The lump in the throat, like well, for me, I don't know if it happens for everyone, but I sometimes will get this lump in my throat if I am impressed to say something and I don't say it, if I am on the verge of tears, or I feel like I want to cry and I'm not in a place where I feel like it's safe to do that. You know, there's all these things coming up in this body at this time. I'm going to pause here because I have something on the stove. Okay, thank you. That's another thing that's going on. One of the coping mechanisms for symptoms related to PTSD is deep breathing exercises. I don't consciously do that. It's something that seems to just happen in this body. And I think that is a safety mechanism to keep me from going into a full-blown panic attack. Now, having said that, it seems like this is happening so often. Like, it's happening, oh man, at least, I'm going to say once every, okay, so it changes depending on the activity. So if I'm just here in the house and I'm focused on doing something, like right now, I had some dough in the refrigerator that is starting to get aged, and so I wanted to use that up. We are running out of bagels, so I decided to make bagels today with the last of this dough. So if I'm focusing on that activity, then it's not as bad. But I just got in the car and had to run up to a neighbor's house to interact. My husband is at the neighbor's using their garage, and I made breakfast sandwiches for my son and I, and my husband left this morning and did not get that because I hadn't had it prepared yet. So I ran up to the neighbor's to take this sandwich that I made for him, and I caught the body doing this deep breathing at least 3 times, and they are less than a mile away from us. So depending on the activity, the stress level is greater or not as great. And I'm finding that the body is doing this a lot. And when I realize that it's happening, I ask the question, what? Because it wasn't conscious, it was just happening. And the response I received was that this is a coping mechanism to keep me from going into a full-on panic attack. So it's a good thing. Again, thoughts that come and go in the mind, probably without even notice, are triggering emotional responses now. So I don't know what day this is as far as how many days I'm into this reoccurrence. It seems like for a while it got worse. So I had this instant like panic attack. So it's really funny because there was this real disturbing feeling around it, really unpleasant in the body. And I let that go because, you know, right after this situation occurred, right after this exchange with my coworker happened, I was in this intense state of panic because this dialogue that was shared between us, for some reason, I presumed was going to cause problems. And then, you know, after I spent some time looking at it, I realized that, you know, I talked to my husband about it, who is a great support for me. I talked to Spirit about it, or God, however you want to say it. And the response what I came out with was, you know, Spirit always says that what is meant to be will be. And, you know, you see this as a bad thing and you don't know that it's a bad thing. Well, so what I told myself was, so that I could function, was you don't know. You think this is going to go badly. You think this is going to be a problem, but you don't know. And so I was able to let it go and function. Even though it was challenging, I was still able to function. But then when the RD, the regional director, did a supervision with me, a routine supervision that happens regularly, and brought up this exchange between me and this coworker and said, you know, the coworker had said something and she felt inclined to speak to me about it. That is when it became a full-blown, out of proportion, just ridiculously, insanely big problem. 1 second. Okay, so where I'm at this point. Having been in this body as long as I have, you know, the 40 plus years I've been in this body, I realize that there's only so much I can take before things become a problem, right? And there were any number of small events. You know, we sold our home, moved to a completely new area, inspired by Spirit. You know, a couple years ago, I was told that I was to sell my house and move. I was given the impression that I was to move to a higher elevation, surrounded by more forest and this kind of thing. And perhaps that is just for my mental health. So it took 2 years for that to happen. Now this is following what they call, I'm going to say the plandemic, however you want to say it. So yeah, I'm having trouble focusing thoughts, as you can see. But so what happened, you know, I was in this lifestyle that I was in for many, many years, over 10 years. I was doing in the same career, surrounded by the same people to a great degree, in a field where I had become very, very comfortable. And then the pandemic happened and we experienced shutdowns, and my work was one of those that got shut down. And so that made me realize I needed to do something different. So I started my own business and did that for a while until things occurred that, again, the stress got to the point that I could not do it. So I didn't have a full-on episode like this, though. I mean, I just said, okay, you know, Father, Mother, God, if this is the way it's going to go, this is the way it's going to go. And I closed my business to really to protect myself from going through what I'm experiencing now. And to protect those around me. So, you know, I had clients, and I didn't want to be in what I might call a bad space, and then influence them through that, from that place. So I closed my business. I moved away and spent time in another state while my house was for sale. During that time, my husband and I, he was not my husband at that time, we were just friends. We developed a relationship, long distance relationship. When it didn't work out for me to stay in that other state, I came back to the house that had not yet sold, and my friend and I, my friend who is now my husband, started to live together and started to fix up that house, and eventually it did sell. And, you know, we put an extensive amount of time, energy, money into that property, and we did sell, and it sold well. We did well. We did well, meaning we came out with enough to buy another property. And we did buy another property, and we did want a rehab property. So Spirit says, you know, you're going to sell your house. I had no idea it was going to take 2 years, but it did. But during that 2 years, we worked on the house that we were in, the home that I had already up for sale. And the person who bought it got a much better home than what it was when I first put it up for sale, because we had remodeled a lot of the interior. And we sold it for a pretty decent price. So I thought at that time it was a good price. However, with the amount of money that we had put into it, you know, that's kind of up for question, because we put a lot of money and a lot of time into it. So we did end up buying another property, and this was a very stressful experience too, because we bought a property that was 2.5 hours away from where we had been living. Thankfully, my sister was fairly local to the area of the property that we purchased, and she allowed us to stay with her and her family. And we lived there with them for, I think it was 3 or 4 months, while we prepared this house to make this house livable. Okay, because this property we bought was an absolute total rehabilitation property. We pretty much had to gut everything inside and start over, and that included plumbing and some other things. Some excavation had to be done. There's much more that needs to be done. So this house is not, so you can see here behind me, you can see up here, if you can see up at the top here, there's no trim yet. My pantry is only partially done, if you can see my pantry over here. So the shelves are up and things are there, but it's not finished yet. So the window behind me, for example, the window is there. There's no trim, you know, there's no trim around the window. So everything is kind of not finished. We had planned an addition on this home because it was only it was a 3-bedroom when we bought it, but the bedrooms were so small that it just wasn't going to work. I mean, once we put a bed in our bedroom, there would be no place for dressers. Like, it was really, really small. So we eliminated one of the bedrooms and made that bedroom into a living room quarters, so that I could have a nice sized kitchen and a dining area, because that's important to me. So when I like to have people over, I do love people, even though I have these challenges. I love people. So I wanted to have a space that we could have people over. So I wanted a decent sized dining room for a decent sized table and a kitchen to cook, because I really like that. So like back here, you'll see above the range hood, you know, none of that is finished. The cabinets don't have doors on yet. And we still have some boxes sitting around and that kind of thing. So being in the environment of construction is difficult, or not finished, just not finished, is difficult for me, because I see these projects everywhere I look, you know, so that's a stressor. So moving to a new area, that, even though it's a blessing too, was a stressor. The extensive things that still need done here. Okay, as I said, we wanted to put an addition on here. And we ran out of funds. We ran, the money that we got when we sold the other property was exhausted way before we got everything done that we wanted to do here, unfortunately. And so, it's just, there were all these things. Then, you know, I attempted this new career, which I really was motivated for. This is what I don't understand. I was incredibly motivated to do this. So I did the training, and it was an extensive amount of training. And there were some difficult things that came up during that training, because part of that was trauma training, was how to be a trauma-informed support for others. And so based on that, we had to really, in the training, we had to really get in touch with our own traumas and face a lot of that stuff. And I did that, and I felt like I was, you know, it was hard. I felt that it was hard. It was stressful. I felt the stress, but I was still getting through it, and I wasn't discouraged. So my motivation was still there, which is how I know I'm moving in the right direction, because I still felt guided in that direction. I felt expansive toward it. I felt, you know, and if I look at it, there were some things that started to come up as I was actually doing the job. There were some things that started to come up. The politics around it, the having to meet the requirements of the state to do the work. So it's like, you know, there are things that you have to do paperwork-wise to be able to justify to those that actually fund these projects or fund these programs. And a lot of that I had issues with. But I felt like the work was important enough to be like, yeah, well, they need what they need to allow us to do this work. So I'm just gonna keep doing it because the people matter to me, right? And then, you know, then this exchange happened with the coworker, and that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. That was like, okay, you know, here I am. Now I'm in full-blown recovery again. So, and I mean full-blown. Like I had to place an order online today, and if I allow myself to think about it, I have to go pick up this grocery order today. And the thought of it is terrifying. Why? You know, to get in the car and drive somewhere, it's unreal what PTSD does to our daily functioning. It is unreal. Like, I took one step out the door to take this sandwich to my husband, literally less than a mile from my home, and I was fighting tears. I was fighting crying because the emotions are just so amplified. Everything is so amplified. So, still working through it, planning on doing some I'm looking at some trauma courses. I'm looking at what I need to do within this pain body, because all of this is happening within the body. It's the body has been informed and almost has been programmed and wired in such a way that, you know, these things, I am not in danger. I'm not in danger. There's nothing here. There's nothing here to harm me. I'm not in danger. And I know that in my mind, but my body says something else. My body is like freaking out. So I'm looking into courses and things like that I might be able to utilize to assist this healing process that needs to happen. And I have no idea how long it's going to take. And of course, I know part of this is going to be to do a lot of spiritual work at the same time, you know, and I think one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest complications with this is I have already done so much of that. I've already done so much healing work. I've already read so many books. I've already, you know, done all of this stuff, and I'm still not healed. I'm still not there. And it's really frustrating because I thought I was in a really good place. I thought that I had been able to rise above this. And I see now that it's still here serving me in whatever way. I don't know. But it's still here serving me. So what I'm meant to do with this, I have some ideas. I'm going to follow some leads and see where they go. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. I just don't really know. There's a lot of stresses involved with this. And, you know, now here I am once again, unemployed. So I don't know. I'm not sure where this is going to end, how it's going to end. But I know God is, and I know I am loved, and I know that all of this is happening for me, not to me. It's here for me. I'm not sure where it's leading me. I'm not sure, but I know it's necessary because it's happening. So I will probably be back on if I do some spiritual reading. I will probably be back on to, you know, to pass that message on. So I hope that you are well. I hope that you are well. I hope that things are going great for you, but if they're not, I hope, it is my prayer, that you might find the gift in it, as I must find the gift in it. And in peace and love, may you be blessed.